Well, Mississippi State's got a few surprising edges on both sides of the ball. One on offense that can catch Missouri off guard, and another on defense that might completely change the game.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jaron Spor. Welcome to Locked On Mississippi State, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm a national college football writer at Athlon Sports. That's Landon McBride. We got our preview show for you today. So we're going to break down the offense and defense of the Missouri Tigers and tell you what Mississippi State advantages they have heading into the game. And then, of course, in our Next Up in Starkville segment, we will give our predictions for the game. But Landon, let's start with the offense. What does Missouri possess that kind of scares you, and where do you think Mississippi State can take advantage?
Well, I guess we'll start with what Missouri does great, and that's Ahmad Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
You see him every game. He's breaking at least one run that is crazy, and he is consistent the rest of the time. Yep. He's the offense, especially now with the true freshman starting. He's really the offense. So, I mean, it really starts and ends with him right now for Mizzou.
Yeah, and after you're coming off a game where you allowed over 300 yards rushing, that's not the best sign when you see him coming into this game. The one thing I will say that's a little different, though, is last week you still had to be aware of the pass because Gunnar Stockton has thrown the ball decently well. And really their weakness offensively, if you want to call it that, was their run game, which that is the thing that shredded you this last game. And this one, with Zollers back there, true freshman, didn't have the best debut. On the season, though, he's completing 53% of his passes, 290 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 6 games played so far this season. So he hasn't had the best production passing the football. And like I said, last week was his first game as the starter ever since Bo Probable went out for the season. And he was 7 of 22, 31.8% completion percentage for 77 yards in the loss to Texas A&M. The week before that, he actually was solid in the second half against Vanderbilt.
Pretty good.
Completed 61% of his passes, 138 yards, 1 touchdown. And for those that didn't see yesterday's episode, I was talking to Locked On Mizzou host Jim Miller, and we were talking about it. And I mentioned that, hey, if Probable doesn't get hurt in that game, maybe they end up pulling it off. And he was quick to point out the offense was actually better in the second half with him. And so, yes, there are some advantages to having. I said Jim Miller. I meant John Miller from Locked On Mizzou. I don't know what I was thinking. But anyways, there are some – obviously, I will say this, because when you play a guy like that in the second half and a team hasn't prepared for you, sometimes you can catch a defense off guard. Whereas last week – and A&M has a really good defense. Last week, A&M wasn't caught off guard, and it showed.
Yeah, it showed, and you see it a lot, mostly in that second half against Vanderbilt, but occasionally in that A&M game, you see the talent with him. Like, you can see that he is a very good quarterback. He can move around in the pocket. He's not really a running threat, but he can run. He's kind of in that range. He's not someone you're going to design runs for, going to kill you, but if you don't have someone there, he can get out of the pocket for a first down. He has a very good arm, but he's a freshman, and it's his second start, third game action, really. I mean, because he played in those other ones, but that was just mop up dude, just running out the clock kind of stuff. So, and you factor that in with they were a running team already. Yeah, it probably doesn't change the design of their offense too much. It probably just brings everything down a little bit. You'd have to worry about a little bit less on the fringes that you could do with Probable that you can't do now.
Yeah. And as for Hardy, he's rushed for 1,046 yards, 12 touchdowns on 6.1 yards per carry. He's had a great season. But I will say this, he had actually a pretty good game against Missouri. Now, I think he had like some monster run in that game, and that
he did.
Kind of broke it. Yeah, I want to say it was like a 45-yard touchdown run. But he had 13 carries, 109 yards in that game, and the touchdown. But the games before that was 20 carries for 97, 24 carries for 58, 12 carries for 52. So teams had kind of figured out how to handle him. That's what Mississippi State's going to have to do. And the one thing that I will say as like this is where the advantage that Mississippi State has. Now, Isaac Smith is out, and that's going to be tough with Ahmad Hardy coming in this game. But the advantage I will say is because they are so good with the secondary and you got the true freshman quarterback, you should be able to sell out to stop the run and just trust your secondary to hold up.
Yeah, that should be the game plan, especially when you look at number of receptions and yards. Kevin Coleman Jr., 52 receptions, 559 yards. Second most is 28 and 340. So he's really the main guy that they attack. You put Kelly
Which we know well because he was on the team last year, Kevin Coleman. We know him well.
Kelly Jones on him, and basically you kind of erase the number one target, and then you just sell out to stop the run because you're going to make everyone else beat you. You take away the top target and the running game, and you make a true freshman quarterback and his secondary receiving options beat you.
Yeah. And another guy to kind of keep an eye on. Now, I meant to look and see what his availability is because I don't believe he ended up playing last week. But Brett Norfleet, the tight end, he actually leads a touchdown reception.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, with 5 touchdown receptions, even though he only has 224 yards. Now, he does have 26 catches, which is the third most on the team.
Mm-hmm.
But the 224 yards is what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth on the team. But the 5 touchdown leads the team.
Yeah.
Outside of that, only 2 other guys have 2 touchdowns, and that's Jude James, another tight end, and then Marquise Johnson at wide receiver. So when they're looking for the touchdown, they're looking for the tight ends.
Yeah, once you get in the red zone, you have to watch tight ends really. The rest of the time, it's pretty much going outside, but predominantly to one receiver. So
I will say real quick, Norfleet is questionable, so we'll see if he ends up playing.
So in theory, this is a offense, especially with the true freshman quarterback, that you should be able to scheme up a defense to, if not stop them, because Ahmad Hardy is very good. They have a veteran offensive line. You can at least make it very difficult for them to move the ball on you by selling out to stop the run.
Yeah, I just think in this game, there is such a big gap when it comes to Mississippi State's secondary and Missouri's wide receivers. And Kevin Coleman's really good, but I mean, you have to throw in the quarterback into this one too, and he hasn't shown a ton. So I really would go into this game not worrying about doubling, not worried about having help over the top. Let your guys just go one-on-one or obviously play some zone as well. And just get after it in the box. Put 8 guys in the box, 9 even if you have to. And if you want to leave those wide receivers on an island, that'd be fine. The issue is if a guy like Norfleet plays, now he can become a matchup problem. And if he doesn't play, Jude James can be a matchup problem. I know he only has 6 catches, but he has it for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's averaging almost 14 yards a catch as a tight end.
Right. So that does, without Isaac Smith, who kind of would be the guy that you would put on the tight end in those situations, kind of becomes who's the next man up that fills that role. But
I would assume it's Manning just based off last game, but I mean, it's going to be a height differential if you do that.
Exactly. So that's a big one there. But with that front, I agree with you. I think you have to go, I almost say you send 6 every time as soon as the ball is snapped, with the 7th watching Hardy and making sure he didn't go just roam out to the flat and everyone else is manned up across the board, and just make the true freshman quarterback make tight window throws down the field and not let him get in any kind of rhythm. I would actually expect to see a lot of blitzes early, because if maybe rattle him a little bit early in the game, get some negative plays, and then maybe get a little bit of a cushion into how you can deal with him, because he's not going to be, get the whole seeing ghost thing going on maybe.
Yeah, and I was looking at it. If Jude James plays, he's at least 6'2". I mean, that's still big, but Manning at 5'10" can hang a little bit better with that. Norfleet at 6'6", though. That's not the matchup you want out there.
You're gonna put a D lineman on him?
Yeah. I mean, what, you gonna put Kelly Jones on him, but then you take him away from Kevin Coleman? But
in red zone, that might be the matchup.
Might have to be, because that could be a problem. So Main thing, sell out to stop the run, and I think you have the advantage in the secondary to let those guys be on an island a little bit and kind of trust them there, so you can sell out to stop the run. And if you can contain Hardy, and I'm not saying contain him as in hold him under 100 yards. I'm just saying keep him under 150.
Yeah.
Don't let him bust the big ones like Nate Frazier did last week. Limit the big plays, and I think you'd have a really good chance of coming out with a win.
Yeah, just don't let Hardy beat you, and you have a shot at coming out of this one with the win.
Yeah, for sure. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk about the defense of Missouri and what advantage Mississippi State has offensively. We'll talk about that. Don't go anywhere. Well, it's almost the weekend. Time to look back and find this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday in DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Mississippi State, there wasn't a lot of choices, but I went with Jaron Manning. He delivered in a big way, in my opinion. He didn't get to play the whole game against Georgia because obviously he had the targeting call, but up until that point, he was really solid in coverage. He was everywhere defensively. He made an incredible play on the first drive to hold him to a field goal, and his closing speed on that reverse was just unreal to watch. And so I got to give it to him. Now, if you've watched him really all season long, this performance wasn't a fluke because he's kind of been on a streak. And just like Jaron Manning delivered for Mississippi State, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. So save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Alrighty, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. All right, Landon, let's dive into the defense. What kind of things are you seeing from them?
Well, it's not a two-man defense, but the two guys that jump out to you are the two DNs, Zion Young and Damon Wilson II. Those two guys, they're one of the best defensive end duos in football with the amount of havoc they wreak on offenses. Wilson, 6.5 sacks, 6.5 tackles for loss. Zion Young, 5 sacks and 11 tackles for loss. Those two guys are just living in the backfield. So controlling the edges of the defensive line by, you can't let your tackles just get run around. That is going to be huge to having any kind of success offensively.
Yeah, I think the thing that stood out to me the most was the TFLs as a team, really, because they have four guys with 5 or more. Khalil Jacobs, Damon Wilson II, Josiah Trotter, and Zion Young. Zion Young is I've watched him play several games this year. That dude is a freak. Like, he is so good. He is a problem. And I saw that, which is crazy because he's basically doubled last year's numbers. Because he was 5.5 TFLs last year and 2.5 sacks, and this year's he's 11 and 5. So he's literally doubled it, both of them. Yeah, he's been incredible this year. But I was looking up some availability report, and it does show Albert Reese is probable.
Well, that's good.
Now, he's been listed as probable before and then got downgraded, but at least it's positive that he was listed as probable on a Wednesday. Because if he's not out there,
it could get.
And I will also say, Blake Shapen was listed as probable. And it's just going to be a long day because Levy said, hey, if Shapen's truly healthy, he's the starter. So if he's listed as probable Wednesday, or on Wednesday, he was listed as probable. I will say this, and I said it on yesterday's podcast before I go further in. I really don't care about the designation until Saturday because I just personally don't think he's going to play. That's just me. But if he does play, and that's why I did the whole breakdown on Kamario Taylor yesterday with John, because I truly think it will be Kamario. And maybe that's just me wishing for Kamario to kind of take the reins and see it. Not wishing an injury, obviously, but just seeing Kamario in action. But if Blake plays and Reese doesn't play, it could be a long game for him.
Yeah, especially with what we've seen from Shapen. Anytime there's like an immediate pressure, he freezes. Yes. And if you're playing, and if Reese is out and you're playing with essentially one backup tackle and maybe, as we've seen them shuffle, another guy out of position on the edge, kind of trying to learn the new side, it could get ugly because he might just freeze. Whereas with Taylor, he's going to take off. Like, he has the athleticism to get out of there and make something out of those situations. Other thing that jumped out to me is just Josiah Trotter. I'm still not quite over guys I watched as a kid having kids that I'm now watching.
Right.
Still not over that, but he is playing great. I mean, you mentioned 59 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, and a sack, and a pass deflection. So, I mean, he's all over the place. I mean, the front seven of Mizzou is very good.
Yes. And that's why I was about to say, if you're asking me, all right, Jaron, you keep hyping up this Missouri defense, but you said there's an advantage Mississippi State has. What is it? It's kind of the reverse of the defense against the offense, where I think Mississippi State has the advantage at receiver against the defensive backs of Missouri. Now, Toriano Pride Jr., I would say, is their best corner, and some people could argue that, but I think he's overall their best corner. With that being said, no player on their team has more than one interception. They only have 5 interceptions on the season. Now, one of those was Dante McClellan's 83-yard touchdown that he took back, but they only have 5 interceptions. They don't turn people over a whole lot. You also look at the pass deflections. Drayden Norwood leads them with 4. Stephen Hall is second with 3, and then there's a bunch of guys with 2, and then there's several with 1. They don't have a lot. And then the other thing is, I mentioned the 5 interceptions. They have 3 fumble recoveries. They forced 8 turnovers all season. They're not a high turnover forcing team. And I just think the advantage is going to be the receivers. I think Mississippi State's receivers can give Missouri problems. The question then is, can the line hold up enough to let them create problems?
Right. And like you said, they're not a big turnover team, but they do create a bunch of negative plays as a defense. It's just not in a turnover way. And yeah, almost everyone on this defense has got their hand on a ball once. That line is very good at getting their hands up. If you look at the stats, just getting the hands up at the line of scrimmage, swatting the ball down. So yes, the receivers, Evans, Brennan Thompson, all those guys, they have an advantage if Shapen has time or Camargo Taylor has time to find them, because that front seven can create pressure so quickly that I think that's part of why you're not seeing a ton of, interceptions or anything like that from this defense, is the front seven takes care of so much of it. And then when you throw in the fact that they do kind of control the clock a little bit with being a predominantly rushing team, it's kind of a recipe to shorten a game and create pressure all at the same time. It's a unique way to build a team now, but it has worked out.
Yeah, they're 10th in total defense. They're 18th in sacks, total sacks, and then they're tied for 32nd in tackles for loss. They're tied for 108th in turnovers forced. So it's just they do create a lot of negative plays, but they don't create a lot of turnovers. So the negative plays aren't turnovers; they're just loss of yards. And I think that also probably plays into the turnovers as well. Because if you got a guy, because you just sacked him and it's 3rd and 20, we've seen so many teams just hand it off and punt. Yeah, and so they're not even going to attempt to try something. One of the things I like to look at, and I've said this many times, I don't like to just look at what is your total defense, what is it. I want to look at your efficiency, because your efficiency a lot of times can say, okay, are they as good as the total defense says they are?
Right.
And so total defense says they're number 10 in the country. Well, efficiency says they're 31st. I think a big part of that is their secondary, because I think up front they are pretty good. And here's an example for those that don't believe in the efficiency numbers. Oklahoma this year for much of the season was ranked number 1 in total defense, but they were always in efficiency around 8, 9, 10, always.
Right.
Well, then they get shredded by, let's see who they got. Ole Miss picked them apart. And people are like, oh, they're not really the number 1 defense. And it's like, yeah, they're probably the 10th best defense, like the efficiency has said they are all season long. They just weren't playing offenses that could expose them at all, which Ole Miss was able to. And Tennessee, to a certain extent, was able to do that as well. Right. So I am curious what kind of Missouri defense shows up. And what I mean by that, is it the number 10 total defense,
Mhm.
or is it the number 31 defensive efficiency defense? Because if it's that, then I definitely think Mississippi State will have its opportunities to create big plays.
Yes, if the line holds up, we are going to see a lot of
Yeah.
opportunities for some big plays. The talent is there, and you use it against them. They clearly are trying to make that negative play. Use some screens, use some misdirection, get them to slow down that pass rush a little bit, and then maybe buy yourself a time for those big plays. And you get Booth in space on a screen, that can go to the house easy with how shifty he is in the open field. So there are ways that Mississippi State can give themselves the time and create more opportunities for those big plays. There's just going to be a little bit of the weathering the storm aspect to this, withstanding this defense.
Yeah, and I'm curious because Missouri's number 20 in rush defense. Can Fluff and Booth get some kind of rhythm? Because I will say, and we haven't talked about this a lot because there's been a lot more to talk about. Since Fluff came back, I don't see the burst that I saw early in the year.
He's not healthy.
Yeah, I think that ankle is still bothering him quite a bit. But
Yeah.
All right, coming up next, we will give our prediction for the game. Does any of us pick an upset? You have to find out next.
The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Landon, what do you got?
All right, this was a hard one to pick because, like we talked about, freshman quarterback for Mizzou, but they have a very good pass rush. Mississippi State has always handled pass rushes well. It's one of those where it's not a strength on strength. It's kind of a weakness on weakness kind of game for both teams. But because it's a true freshman and how good Mississippi State secondary is, I think Mississippi State wins 27-21.
Okay, I like that pick. And I'm trying to remember because I gave my prediction on yesterday's show with John, and I don't remember the score I went to. I know I picked Mississippi State. I don't remember the score, but I bet my score hasn't changed too much. I picked a low-scoring game. I remember that, but this is what I think. I picked 20-13, and I'm going to stick with that. If I didn't, hey, it's my new score. I'm just going with this score. But no, I do think it's going to be low-scoring just because I don't trust Zollers.
Yeah.
I do think Camario is going to play, and I think he can make some plays with his legs and make enough plays with his legs to kind of cause an issue and keep them off balance, Missouri off balance. Now, Missouri did a really good job against Diego Pavia as a running quarterback. But Camario is a different type of runner.
The level of athlete's a little different there.
Right. And Diego's a really good runner. It's just different types of runners. So it's not the same. But my thing is, I don't think Missouri can beat them being one-dimensional.
Right.
And I will say this, because I know if Missouri wins, all the Missouri fans will be in our comments. This is what I will say. If Missouri beats them by just running down their throat and runs for 330 or 350 or 400 yards, and they only throw for 80 yards or something like that, and you lose because they ran all down your throat, that says more about Mississippi State than Missouri, in my opinion. And that's not taking credit away. It's just when you know this team has to run the football and you still can't stop it, that's on you. That's not on the team. Like, sometimes just a team is just that much better and stuff like that. That's not the case between these two. It's not like Missouri is so much better. I would say they're better, and if they're healthy, they are better, and they would win the game. But with them not being healthy, I don't think they're just this much better than Mississippi State. Mississippi State should win the game. Now, it's on the road, and I also will say before the year, this was the game that I said they would get their sixth win in. So I'm just sticking with that mainly because all the signs really tell me to pick Missouri in this one. But I'm sticking with it. 20-13, I'm going the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and you're right. If Mizzou runs the ball down their throat when we all know it's coming, like the other option is not a great option. That says so much about Hutzler, which
Yes,
I was critical of him before the season started. I was like, can you trust him? But apparently, to this point, it seems we can.
it either says a lot about him or it says a lot about the lack of talent in the front seven, which we know is there, but
we'll also be able to tell if it's they're selling out and it's still not working.
Yeah.
It's a talent thing. If they're not selling out, it's a coaching thing.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree.
we'll be able to tell which side of the coin it falls on pretty easily.
I would go into the game, and if Zollers throws for 330 and you lose, you tip
it
your
is
cap.
what it is.
You tip your cap and you move on.
Exactly.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
I would say Ahmad Hardy isn't beating us.
Yes.
If Zollers beats us, tip your cap, move to the next game. Get ready for the Egg Bowl. That's what I would do. But, all right. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy breaks down the best conference in college sports, from the rivalries to the championships and every game in between. Find Locked On SEC on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Jaron. Check out my work over at Athlon Sports. That's Landon. Follow us, Locked On Mississippi State. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Post daily videos Monday through Friday, so check those out. We'll also have our pre- and post-game videos posted on our social media platforms as well on Saturday. So don't miss that. And hopefully we can celebrate a Mississippi State win on Monday. But until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.